the base layer asset has this special privilege in that it is a monetary asset. And not all cryptocurrency networks get to have that privilege. Bitcoin, of course, has had it. We would argue on Bankless that Ethereum is also getting it. But I noticed something, Eric, that you stopped short of calling Ether sound money. And I'm curious because you have this history in Bitcoin. What is holding you back from thinking about Ether as sound money? Or am I wrong about that? Do you think Ether is sound money right now?
I think you know my answer already, and I think that I mean Bitcoin is a reaction to that money can be so easily manipulated by politics in the central banking system, and uh, Bitcoin goes in the completely different direction. It takes us back to the gold standard, and we adhere to the philosophy of Bitcoin and Bitcoiners all over the world. We care most of all about the predictability of the monetary policy of Bitcoin, and we view that as one of the most foundational properties of a good sound money. Whereas in Ethereum, you have a different philosophy where you care more about securing Ethereum. You want to secure your DeFi systems by having a sufficient security budget for that. And you don't have any qualms about changing the emission rate of Ether to accommodate what the system needs. So the reason why I do think of Bitcoin as having upper hand in becoming a dominant store value and the dominant medium of exchange is because the meme of a strong monetary, immutable monetary policy, whether or not that actually factually works in practice or not, we know that reality and facts don't actually uh, uh, have so much influence into the thinking and brains of humans, but it is the memes that count. So I think that the meme of an immutable, predictable monetary policy that Bitcoin has historically followed, whereas Ethereum hasn't, and also the very beautiful inception of Bitcoin of the Satoshi Nakamoto, who never ever spent a penny of the early Bitcoins that he made, and then he disappeared and had no influence in the system. Bitcoin is much more this abstract brand. It's just Bitcoin. You don't know who the founder is, and the monetary policy is immutable. It aligns so it fits so much well. It fits so much better into this category of a digital gold than Ethereum does. And I do think that there is very strong reasons why gold was the most formidable form of money for thousands of years in human history. And I think that the cryptocurrency that better emulates those properties are going to win in the mimetic game of creating a sound money, because after all, it is a mimetic game. Now I do think that Bitcoin is going to, the mistake that Bitcoiners did was focusing on the stock to flow ratio, which is, I mean, you don't, gold has an emission rate, right? There's new gold being dug out of the ground that isn't 100% predictable. But all we know that is roughly is around 2% every year. But because Bitcoin is supposed to have a fixed supply, then this whole idea of you know the stock to flow model, of course. And I think perhaps most of your listeners do. I mean, now so many Bitcoiners think that the reason that Bitcoin is going to be successful and hyper Bitcoinization is going to happen is because the price is going to go up so much just because Bitcoin has a fixed supply. But if you are now in that frame of thinking, and now Ethereum is going to burn a portion of its fees after EIP 1559 gets activated, and Ethereum could create it and is already creating a meme of itself in having a deflationary supply, a supply that shrinks because the gas fees are being burnt. Then now the stock to flow ratio of Ethereum isn't even infinity. It goes into the negative, but it actually goes into the complex number plane. So I think Bitcoiners have shot themselves in the foot by trying to play the mimetic sound money game by looking at the stock to flow ratio. And you know how much I did to try to get Bitcoiners away from that, because I knew that this would fuck everything up for Bitcoin if we focused too much on the stock to flow ratio. And that's why I've spent the last year or so trying to get people away from the stock to flow ratio obsession and getting them more focused on the rainbow chart, which doesn't have this supply-centric way to analyze how the price should develop. And that's why I'm now the rainbow guy, because I knew that this was going to happen. I try to get people away from the stock to flow ratio. I think I perhaps failed, and because of that, Ethereum is going to have a great chance to compete in the mimetic game of being sound money. That's the Bitcoiners' fault on their own. They created this situation for themselves, and how I acted in that situation is I built a larger Ether exposure in my bags, because in 2001, 1 year ago, I knew that first of all, I knew that the layer 2 solutions for Ethereum were going to work out, and I knew that I also knew that there's going to come tons of people into the cryptocurrency debate, and they're going to think that Bitcoin uses too much energy. And also I understood that EIP, this happened a bit later, I think that a while later, that I understood that the supply of Ethereum is also going to shrink. I did see that now Ethereum has so much potential to start competing in the mimetic game of being money, that flippening is no longer off the table. I personally still prefer the predictable monetary policy. Like, that's how I think that we should. That's the most powerful principle to stick by if you want to create sound money. But I do think that Ethereum has been fundamentally undervalued because it has these other arguments that also resonate very well. So I did build out a big Ethereum stack, and now I'm outperforming Bitcoin because of that. So that's thanks to the stock to flow Bitcoiners that made stock to flow such a big part of what cryptocurrency is, that I can bank on the meme of deflationary supply in Ethereum because of that. So I guess that's the silver lining of being tortured by these stock to flow obsessionists in Bitcoin.